Greetings and salutations, everybody. This is the Inciting Moment podcast coming at you with a special episode in which we got ourselves a new cast member. That cast member sitting right over here, mystery person. Who are you?
Why, hello. My name is Harrison, and I heard just a rumor that we were going to be talking about Bart the Bear, so I have forcibly made my way into the recording studio.
Yes, Smokey's lesser-known cousin, an unfortunate alcoholic who's recently gotten better.
Right. He's reformed himself. He changed for the better, and you know what? Kudos to him, really. So Harrison, you're a pretty interesting dude from the talks that we've had in terms of seeing if you were right for the job, and so far it seems like it's a pretty promising one. Let me ask you, buddy, just to kind of get an idea of what you look for in movies, what are your favorite kind of movies?
Favorite kinds of movies? They would be kaiju films, martial arts, and heist movies.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting mixture right there. So you're a fan of Japanese kaiju, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, name every kaiju movie.
Name them all right now, or else you're not a real fan.
All right, I got you. Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, Mecha King Ghidorah. We don't count regular King Ghidorah, just Mecha.
Just Mecha.
Gamera. That random island of women that summon Rodan by singing.
God, I feel like there's so many movies overlapping here.
I think there is.
Quite. All right. Well, with these movies that you always look forward to seeing all the time, what is it you like the most about them?
I am just a huge fan of really well done scenes. That's why I like animated movies a lot too.
Oh, okay.
If it's like looking at a moving painting, essentially.
Gotcha.
Certain scenes, they're just done in such a way where you can kind of just look back at it and go, I like how this looks. I may as well watch it again. I don't care for watching the whole movie and want to go. I'm just going to look up this one scene again on my phone.
Oh, yeah, because there's plenty of those movies where, much to David Lynch's dismay, I, too, will watch it again on my phone, because there are just certain scenes in all kinds of different movies where it is the perfect combination of vision, execution, planning, blocking, and it just all comes together to make this visually impressive scene, both in animation and live action, and I can totally see what you're talking about.
And the other thing I always look forward to is in the really old kaiju movies, the fake blood they used was bright pink, and it always cracked me up.
Oh, yeah. Because, shifting it to pink or green or yellow, that changes it completely and isn't too violent, too gory at all. It's A-okay.
Exactly. It bumps it down a notch on the rating system.
That's not blood, that's pea soup! Come on!
No, it's like if you ever played the Danganronpa games. They get away with the teen rating because they just use bright colors instead of blood.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah. Definitely.
You do what you got to.
Yeah, you gotta find your way around some of those little detractments from vision, with all that censorship, You gotta pull out all the stops for that, definitely. Well, it should, of course, be brought up as to why Harrison is now joining us for the podcast, and that is because when it comes to the cast of the Inciting Moment podcast, there have been a couple shifts. For one thing, James, while he is going to still do his best to join us, he has actually gotten a new job. Personal schedules, it kind of conflicts a little bit. But sometimes there is a chance that he'll be able to have our day of recording free so that he may join us. So here's to hoping that that'll be frequent enough somewhere in the future. He's still starting off and whatnot. But Scott, our buddy Scott, who has been with us for just about every episode for the most part, up until now, he has had some stuff that he's had to juggle in his own time, and with how much that has been weighing on him, I talked with him about it, and for the sake of, being able to put his time into that and not feel overwhelmed by a bunch of other stuff and commitments that he has to stick to. Sadly, he will not be joining us on the podcast within the future. I have left it open to where if Scott changes his mind and he'd like to join us later on, he is more than welcome to. But for now, we are going to respect his decision and go on ahead.
And we'll hope that the Florida man doesn't get him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, part of all that weight is probably the fact that, well, he's in Florida.
He's got to dodge the crocodiles and crazy Florida men.
Florida in
Yes.
itself is a mental toll on one's being.
Right, right. I mean, with how it never, ever really is quote-unquote cold in Florida, that means he has to fight off those crocs and gators in his sewer all year round, so I'm pretty sure they're starting to multiply.
Oh,
and,
it also
fortify
means
the Western Front.
It also means he has to fight off the birds that just decide to leave up here and go down there.
Yeah. Oh no! Oh no, that's true. God, yeah, that's a toll on you. Let me tell you, fighting off all of those things at once. That's no bueno, honestly.
Yeah, no, like the thing I look forward to in the winter up here is that the geese leave.
Yeah, and geese can be assholes. Like major assholes. They don't screw around.
Yeah, no, just like our movie.
Oh no, not like our movie at all. No, we'll have some things to say about
No, I'm good.
1997's The Edge, because that was quite the ride.
But you're gonna have to bear with us till we get there.
Oh.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't like that.
You love it. Shut the fuck. Don't lie to me.
I kind of do. Okay. For the time being, Harrison, if it wasn't stressed enough, happy to have you on here. And so far, it seems like you're going to bring quite a bit to the podcast.
Just like the what's his name, Charles in this movie. He just shows up in the woods and starts talking about how you can start a fire with ice, and everyone's just looking at him confused.
Yeah, unfortunately, the other characters find it quite unbearable.
Keeps on asking, do you know how to make fire from ice while someone's having a mental breakdown? But, of course, we'll go into the nitty-gritty of that.
Yeah, we just gotta catch our bearings.
First, we have a little something to talk about. A little something that at first was mainly just me sharing my thoughts on the show, but frankly the show, because it is connected to a much larger franchise, a franchise that, if it wasn't clear enough within the past couple of years, has had a few issues. And by a few, I of course mean a lot of issues. Some not so bad, you know. It's led to some good stuff that came out of it, but it does kind of bring up something that probably needs a little bit of attention going forward. But the show in question is a little show that was released on a weekly basis, episode by episode, on Disney+. That show being The Book of Boba Fett, or as I like to call it, The Book of Boba Fett. Where?
He's that good of a bounty hunter.
Oh yeah, he's that good of a bounty hunter that he disappears and a completely different character just hijacks his show.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll explain that little tidbit in just a second. But the Book of Boba Fett, as you can probably tell by the title, is a show where the titular character Boba Fett, famous from the Star Wars franchise, does his best to become a New York Times bestseller, put out a autobiography on being a single dad in the midst of the galaxy far, far away, and how it's a hard knock life for him. Oh, sorry, hang on, that was the wrong script. No, instead he's actually trying to leave the life of being a bounty hunter, and is instead trying to become essentially a more positive version of what Jabba the Hutt used to be, which is a crime lord on the Dune Sea of Tatooine.
So, what you're telling me is it's a reverse of Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Breaking Good, if you will.
breaking good, indeed. Which kind of goes hand in hand with some of the liberties taken with Boba Fett's character and all that. Because if we were to start anywhere, this show was fascinating in terms of its really existence, because Boba Fett, if you're going purely by the movies, the shows, and whether that be animated or live-action shows, Boba Fett as a character has almost been non-existent and mainly just a really cool-looking dude in olive green armor that kind of does cool things in the background of some of the movies. And I mean, it was enough to where people really liked him over the years, to the point where I obviously... spoiler alert for the film from 1983 that if you haven't seen by now, what are you doing? Return of the Jedi. Boba Fett does kind of die in a sort of silly comedic way and falls into that Sarlacc pit. And with the popularity of him and the outcry for him being killed off in such a haphazard way, even George Lucas said, if I had known how popular Boba Fett was at the time and was also going to be, I would have not had him die in that manner. Just to sort of point at, the influence of Boba Fett,
My favorite thing, though, with Boba Fett and that Sarlacc pit, right, is when they did the EU, like the extended universe, for the comic series that he escapes, and then has Sarlacc pit PTSD, and then proceeds to fall in at least 2 more Sarlacc pits.
He got out of the Sarlacc pit once, but then somehow fell back into not a different one, no, the same one, and then got out again. Yeah, very silly stuff, and I hope that he does not fall back in the new canon. That would be very silly.
Hey, how do you think they're gonna end the next season?
Well, that's the thing, Harrison. Talking about the show Book of Boba Fett, I'm a little iffy on if there is going to be a second season. Because let's just get straight to the thing. Book of Boba Fett, it is not terrible. There are actually some really good moments that I actually think make the character of Boba Fett kind of compelling and interesting and unique, especially because Din Djarin, the current Mando, the Chrome one from The Mandalorian, he's almost become like the newer Boba Fett and kind of embodied what Boba Fett used to be. So naturally, when you have Boba Fett come back, you have to do some stuff to differentiate the two. Obviously, the one thing that Boba Fett hangs on to from his previous incarnations is that he's not really cut up about killing people, which you are reminded of several times throughout the Book of Boba Fett. But it's also just the fact that the whole thing with Boba Fett is that he is a former bounty hunter that is sick of being used as like a tool and being put in harm's way because his employers were assholes. So he wants to be something bigger than that. And being a crime lord is, to him, the next best thing from just being some other bounty hunter and all that.
And we have our vices.
Oh, yeah, we have our vices. We have our vices, including constantly sleeping in a tank full of Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
The future is indeed a strange place.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's what Baja Blast does. It completely heals you of any ailments. No, but the concept of the show is interesting, Boba Fett's trying to become larger than what he was before and sort of take over the role that Jabba had. But the big difference between him and Jabba is that whereas Jabba was like this callous, monster of a person that ruled primarily through fear, Boba Fett wants to rule through respect. Being like, hey, listen, as long as we mutually respect each other, we won't have any problems. But if that's not the case, well, we might have some problems. there's multiple times where there are people that either through Jabba or through just Tatooine in general, they should technically have some grievance with Boba Fett, and Boba Fett, by all intents and purposes, could just be like Jabba and just kill them off and have that be the end of it. But instead, Boba goes, you know what? You're pretty good at trying to kill people. How's about you work for me instead?
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, it seems to pay off overall pretty well, because he gets some pals and whatnot to help him out throughout the show. But the big problem is that Boba Fett, as a character, you have the starting points where it's just like, oh yeah, he wants to rule through respect. He wants to be more than just a bounty hunter. He wants to move on from just being a tool for other people and stuff like that. The execution, however, is where a lot of things fall flat. And Sam, I know you've been able to, kind of read up on some of the things that happened in that, and I've even had a little bit of a conversation with you about some of the just really weird things that happen and stuff like that. And I don't know. I want to ask you guys something. You have in total 7 episodes, right? To tell the story of Boba Fett trying to be a crime lord.
One of the most popular Star Wars characters ever.
You have 7 episodes to really flesh out his character. And, well, first off, make him an actual character. That's one thing. What is your opinion on the idea where 2 whole episodes of a show called The Book of Boba Fett doesn't even have Boba Fett at the helm of those episodes, and instead is on a completely separate character from a completely separate show doing his completely separate stuff?
Well, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. I don't know if it would pay off.
Spoiler alert, it really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And of course, what I'm paying reference to is the fact that 2 episodes completely, sidetrack away from Boba Fett and his whole situation, and instead go to the Mando, Din Djarin from, well, The Mandalorian. The completely separate show that's had 2 seasons now. And the thing is that the previous episode, when he shows up, it is hinted that they are going to try and ask him, hey, help us out with trying to take on these syndicate gang guys in order to, take control of Tatooine and stuff like that. And, his return is interesting, because the episode opens up, he's in like this meat locker kind of spot. He's after a bounty, and he's like cleaving through these guys because he's got the dark saber, because he got that at the end of the 2nd season. He's chopping people up and stuff like that. Really cool action, a lot better action than some of the other scenes from earlier episodes, which I don't know, man. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. So decent entrance, and then the episode just keeps going and going, and I'm like, okay, are we just gonna have him like go to Tatooine now? Is this what? Oh, okay, no, we're still going. He's fighting another Mandalorian over ownership of the dark saber. Okay, cool. All right, so now are we gonna go to Tatooine? Oh, okay, no, this is okay then. This is just the Mandalorian now.
I mean, I don't know about you, Ian, but I'm colorblind enough not to tell the difference between the Mandalorian and Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
I mean, technically speaking, yeah. And I mean, it was said that the Book of Boba Fett was going to be a spin-off already, but the title itself says Book of Boba Fett. That's clear enough that it's an indication this is the Boba Fett show. So for it to all of a sudden detract into the Mandalorian and just be set up for the next season, it kind of cheats Boba Fett out of his time. Because if I had to sum up my biggest problem with the show, it's that it doesn't feel like it developed its own story enough. It didn't know what it wanted to be,
Wait, it just dawned upon me. It's the classic Disney move. to
Oh?
have you need to watch an unrelated or somewhat related TV show to understand what is going on in the next movie.
So what they're also doing with Marvel, too, with all their Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna handle that, like, because they're still putting out the movies and stuff like that, so I don't know, man.
I don't know. I assume it's a similar situation, given of the wording and being a pseudo spin-off and then them closing up a story arc from a different TV show within this TV show, and it's strange.
Yeah,
Strange
it is
move.
strange.
Has a hint of a lack of confidence in what they were going for with Boba Fett, so they try to like lean on something that was familiar with the Mandalorian. They're like, man, we don't know if this Boba Fett's working as well. Let's throw in the Mandalorian. That shit was popular, and I would get it if he showed up for like an episode or two. It's like, oh hey, this is the same universe shit, but taking over completely 2 episodes sounds a bit silly for how little episodes there are.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I mean, you make a very good point, Sam. I do think it was perhaps a lack of confidence. Or that there's another chance it was the fact that the actual writers just, I guess, maybe lost interest with writing Boba Fett's story at a certain point. They're just like, let's do some more interesting stuff. Because here's the sad part, right? It's the Boba Fett show, but 2 of the best episodes are the Mandalorian episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, I guess the thing to put it is, Boba Fett has the same sort of appeal as Samus or Link. They don't talk. They look cool. And the second you give them a voice, you get a situation like the other M games for Metroid.
I see where you're coming from, but I feel like with Boba Fett, with his history, both with books, comics, movies, and stuff like that, all that, coming together, I think there's a middle ground in terms of how you can handle that. Because Boba Fett's cool enough to where, like, no, I want him to be an actual character and stuff like that. And one big criticism that I can agree with when it comes to handling turning him into an actual character when going off of just his time in the movies is that he does talk too much from time to time. And I feel like his partner, Fennec, basically his right-hand woman, really some of those lines should have been given to her. And it's funny that I was thinking that because Temuera Morrison, the guy playing Boba Fett, which, by the way, he is easily the best part of the show, hands down. He does such a great job as Boba Fett. He was even saying that he talked to the director of some of the episodes and was saying, hey, listen, can she say some of my lines? I feel like I'm talking too much, and it's taking away from Boba Fett's, like, kind of stoic, reserved, mannerisms and stuff like that. He really only talks when he needs to, And I think, has a point, really. The other big criticism is that sometimes Boba Fett seems like a little bit too much of a pushover. Like, there's a lot of action scenes where he's, like, getting, pushed around, thrown around. And granted, one scene in particular is him fighting a literal Wookiee, so, I mean, a little one-sided, but some of the scenes I feel like could have been handled better, and I think if I had to bring up another thing that maybe contributed to Boba Fett and his show having such wildly differing quality from, like, episode to episode, because it is a roller coaster when it comes to, like, being really good stuff and then really bad stuff. It's the direction. There are times where it just feels very flat and not that creative. What I found interesting was that the episodes that I really didn't like, they were directed by a long-time director. I mean, he's done quite a few things. Robert Rodriguez. I mean, he's done movies like Desperado and not too long ago that Alita Battle Angel movie, and I mean, those were pretty good.
Oh no, Alita was great.
Oh yeah. So I was wondering, well, now, what happened with this? Like, did he have some restrictions and stuff like that? Because it really didn't feel like the writing was always the problem. A lot of it really just did come down to the fact that, like, a lot of the scenes just felt very stilted, very wooden, and I shit you not, guys. It was sometimes to the point where I was getting flashbacks to the prequel trilogy, and I'm like, oh, come on, guys, we're past this.
Hey, the prequels, that is a work of art. It's a national treasure.
Oh, no.
It's a meme reservoir.
No.
They went in to try to make a movie, but it's like The Room, but for nerds.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Every little tiny thing and touch that they do in this movie, wonderful. And it's such a weird roller coaster, the prequels.
I mean, hey, they are an oddity, and I'll sometimes watch them purely for that. But the problem is that, you know, we're kind of more, at least nowadays, we're a little bit more about, like, actual good quality Star Wars. And I don't want to knock Robert's, you know, body of work, because he has a good, like, back catalog of movies and stuff like that he's done. But at the same time, I was seeing a couple of his other films in his, like, IMDb and stuff like that, and I will say, looking at some of it, it is a little inconsistent here and there, like, in terms of some of the stuff that he has done. He's gone between, like, really good shit, like Alita Battle Angel and Desperado, where Desperado in particular, if you told me that was kind of what they were going to do, but with Boba Fett, I'm like, oh yeah, go with that. That makes sense. But then you also have to remember, Robert had a lot of movies where the whole shtick with them was that they were trying to be very low budget and kind of like bare bones, because that's the aesthetic. Because he's also a big fan of, like, those Grindhouse movies where they're, like, very, very bare bones and not that polished and stuff like that. So it's very inconsistent in terms of quality when you do look at his body of work. And, I mean, for one thing, he is the guy that did Spy Kids. So, I mean, that also, you know, just to kind of put that out there, that also kind of explains things when you really think about it.
Take that as you will.
Now that you bring that up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of see it, because I will shamefully admit that I have seen all of the Spy Kids movies as a kid, and I can kind of see the semblance there. Although, fantastic villain writing for one of the monologues, like, love to quote one line, and when people ask where it's from, you just go, oh yeah, no, it's from Spy Kids.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what quote you're saying.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it was the fact that Star Wars, in terms of, like, you know, sets and how you capture all this action that has to happen, maybe it was a little bit much for him, because, I mean, Desperado, it's got some big set pieces, but overall, it's a bit smaller than I guess some of the, like, set pieces of Boba Fett. Like, there are train chases where, like, Boba Fett and a bunch of Tusken Raiders are, like, trying to raid a syndicate train in order to stop them transporting like spice and stuff like that, which is basically space crack. So basically, Tatooine is Florida. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Ian. So what I'm getting you're saying is that the wider scope kind of pushed him over the edge.
Yeah, pushed him over the edge where everybody gets chased by Bart the bear.
Bart the bear, Godspeed.
The fucking hungy boy. He very hungy. If they just gave him sliced ham, I mean, that would have been A-okay.
Oh,
you
no,
know, he just wanted some ham.
That's not going to stop a bear. But I will say, if for some reason, Hasbro, you're listening, and you ever get the idea to make a Hungry Hippos movie, use this as the basis.
No! Oh
It's just that
Lord.
easy.
They've done Battleship. What's to stop
They
them?
they did they made Battleship, and I mean it makes you wonder, when are they going to have the cinematic universe of board game movies? When are we going to get Jenga?
I mean, wasn't that Django Unchained?
Fair.
No, no, that wasn't.
Oh, I must have watched the wrong one. Shoot.
Maybe. Are you sure you didn't watch like one of those like really obscure Netflix originals or something like that?
Oh no, I tried to pirate it. It was just people stacking Jenga towers.
Oh, riveting. I mean, probably would be a lot better than a Netflix original Jenga movie. Netflix might be so ashamed of that they wouldn't even put the Netflix original on it.
I mean, they'll put Netflix original on anything. We could have something go up there, and it just be the footage of Bart the Bear. Just slap Netflix original on it, and there we go, golden.
Right.
But yeah,
Well,
no, The Edge.
Yes, The Edge. The Edge, our recommended movie that I threw out there. Well, the Edge has a common theme with another film that I recommended a couple months ago. That movie being A River Runs Through It, where, hey, it's from the 90s, specifically 1997. And much like A River Runs Through It, it's in the wilderness. Of course, there's a little bit less civilization. Much more remote. And I watched both of these movies, or at least parts of them, which made me want to watch them again in full later on the Toonami Aftermath stream that we talked about not too long ago, where it was on the movie channel, and I caught it, I want to say, believe it or not, just as one of the characters is being attacked by good old Bart. And it made me think, oh, what is this? And I watched the rest of it, and I'm like, oh, this is quite the film. Interesting. And a lot of it was just catching my eye, like the direction, the cinematography, and of course, just the dynamic between Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins throughout the film, and how they have varying different reactions to just the desperation of being out in the wilderness and constantly just barely surviving a particular situation, or just barely coming across a chance to get back to civilization, but missing it, and therefore the desperation becoming just worse. But just to kind of lay out some stuff, The Edge follows a group of people, including Charles, played by Anthony Hopkins, Bob, played by Alec Baldwin, and, of course, Stephen, played by Harold Perrineau. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Where they are heading out into the wilderness to find this this guy that Bob would really like to interview and take some photos of for a photo shoot and whatnot. They leave their cabin that they were staying at in order to go find him, and when some very fake-looking birds crash into a plane that they are flying in, they crash and get stranded in the middle of the wide-open wilderness, and have to do their best to get back to civilization, while also trying to outrun the pursuit of a very, very, very hungry bear named Bart. Or at least the actor bear is named Bart. The bear doesn't actually have a name in the movie, but...
On the cast list, it just says the Kodiak Bear.
Yes, the Kodiak Bear. So, gentlemen, let's start with just general thoughts. What did you think of The Edge?
Overall, I kind of dug it. I didn't really have super high expectations going in because I didn't really know anything about the movie, but it was an overall solid piece. I'm not gonna say it's the greatest movie ever, by any stretch of the imagination, but it worked just well enough. I think the characters were my biggest worry because I thought it was gonna be like just kind of like a. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're both good actors, Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins. I just didn't really know how well they played off each other, but in the end, I think
Hmm.
it really worked out. Overall, I liked it.
Right, I get you.
Harrison, how about you?
I'd say it was pretty solid. It reminded me a lot of the Hatchet books that I read as a kid.
Uh huh.
Just kind of like an animated, not animated, movie version of the books, but with a much older protagonist as opposed to a teenage boy being an elderly man. Although the one thing though that kills me looking at this in hindsight is our protagonist's name is Charles Morse. His wife's name is Mickey. How did I not notice that her name is Mickey Morse?
Wow. Huh.
Mickey Morse.
Mickey Mouse.
Ha,
Oh,
ha.
I'm gonna kill my husband. Oh.
Uh,
Well, now she wasn't the one that wanted that to happen. That was just Alec. But we'll get into that. No, but if I were to go over my own personal thoughts, I really like this movie. First off, comes from I want to. I'm debating whether the '90s or 2000s were my preferred favorite decade of movies, but honestly, so far, I'm finding a lot more movies from the '90s that just do a lot more for me in terms of what I look for in movies, and of course before that, within the '80s and whatnot. I guess you could say, from my point of view, the '90s and 2000s were like the last good couple decades of movies, because after that, yeah, not a whole lot that I find interesting. Much like how I've talked about, this is very much a concept movie where it has a situation that it very eloquently sets up for the characters, which is, hey, you've crashed in the middle of the wilderness. There is no sign that anyone is going to be coming for you, and now you have to live off the land in order to make it back. You know, and do
Mm-hmm.
your best to just not give up or give in to your fears and anxieties, and just keep pushing along and keep your head on your shoulders and all that. And when it comes to like the direction, the cinematography, the actual like sequences and pacing and everything, this is one of those movies where, with the concept in mind, I feel like with the limitations that they have, being out in the middle of the wilderness, having to film all this, they explore this concept beautifully, in my opinion, to the best that they can. And, you know, as someone who, much like as we were talking about, coming off of Book of Boba Fett, where I thought the big thing is that it felt underdeveloped and not explored enough, this was refreshing because it felt like it explored everything it could. It developed everything it could, especially given that one little side plot and something that throws a bit of a wrench into things. Anthony Hopkins suspects that Bob is trying to kill him in order to be with his wife, Mickey Morse. Ha ha!
Mm-hmm.
That escalates interestingly. Because there's quite a few moments where there's like, I don't want to say like psych outs or red herrings, but there's plenty of times where you second guess whether that's going to be the case.
yeah.
Being out
A
in the
couple
wilderness.
fake outs.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the other thing that they do a lot of in the movie is just every single person around Charles, and he slowly picks up on it. They all want something from him. They don't really care about him.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Charles is a very wealthy man, and Bob constantly points out that as a wealthy man, people want something from him. Because he has more to give in terms of like money or connections and stuff like that.
Yeah, like at the very beginning, the part with the lodge, it's revealed that the lodge owner only wants him there because he wants his money to expand the lodge into a tourist attraction.
Yeah. He's being all nice and hoity-toity with them, and then all of a sudden he throws out this idea for like renovating like a lakeside thing or whatever, doing some project, and he throws out, "Oh yeah, if I could just get like 20 to 40 million dollars."
Just casually, just casually.
Yeah, and then Charles just goes, "Oh, this bitch."
I
Yeah.
honestly think he doesn't even say another word to him for like the rest of the movie. He just stops talking to him entirely.
And they show like
Right.
one nonverbal thing at the end where they look at each other, and it's almost like he can. Spoiler alert, by the way. It's almost the lodge owner can like see they killed the bear, and just like they give
Right.
like a little nod of respect.
He's also wearing the bear.
Fair
Yeah,
enough,
that's
but
true. Oh wait, is he wearing the bear when he gets back?
He has the claw as a necklace.
Oh, yes, he does have that.
He made it for Bob. Bob tries to kill him to take his wife, and then he just helps Bob afterwards, and then Bob dies, and he just takes the necklace.
Yeah, actually, that's the worst thing when it comes to that whole reoccurring theme of Charles just being a person that people want something from. The whole reason Bob wants to, kill him is just essentially saying, yeah, she's only with you for your money. You're this wealthy dude, and, to me, there's not much else of a reason for her to be with you, so I'm just going to kill you. So here's a big question. I think you kind of mentioned this in a conversation we had about the movie, Sam. Very briefly, of course. We didn't go into too nitty-gritty. What were your guys' thoughts on Charles just being this random info encyclopedia? And do you think that in some moments was a little unrealistic, where he just knows all this stuff and executes it with such ease and all that? Because he's the one that is essentially carrying the team when all three of them are out in the woods. He's able to tell which direction is like south by using a pin and putting it on a leaf in water.
Yep.
And just a bunch of other little survival things that he's mainly the one that's like setting all this stuff up.
I mean, the thing is, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
With how he acts behavior-wise,
Uh-huh.
I do see it as realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole thing with Charles is he just loves to know things.
Mm-hmm.
His whole idea of calming someone down is asking them how if they know about a fact. Which isn't something that's going to work for anyone, but it's something that's going to work for him.
Right.
So
No,
he's
and
basically...
that's kind of reassuring to a lot of the characters, because like they're out in the middle of the wilderness and they're breaking down because they have no idea how they're going to get back or even survive, for that matter. So he'll just say things like, "Do you know how to make a fire from ice?"
Yep. Several times.
Yes. God, that scene in particular was the one where I thought, with Charles's character in particular, really exploring him, but also Bob, just showing their dichotomy and just their contrast as people. It follows them trying to chase down a helicopter that was flying over that sadly doesn't see them and then keeps on going to another area completely separate from where they're at. And Bob, obviously, is just breaking down and getting all emotional because they were so close to getting home, and now they have to go for God knows how much longer,
Yep.
And then there's just Charles going like, "Oh, hey, do you know how to make a fire from ice?" And, Bob's obviously mouthing off on him, going like, "Yeah, fuck this, fuck that, and, screw you."
He's basically sobbing and like full mental breakdown, and Charles just waits. And the second he stops, he goes, "Hey Bob, do you know how to make a fire with ice? Do you know you can make a fire with ice?"
No, it's good stuff. That scene in particular was a good one.
So, honestly, I think the greatest strength about this movie is Anthony Hopkins' character Charles.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think he had the most growth and development. Granted, he's the main character, so you'd expect that, but it did in a way that kind of surprised me. So, I mean, starting off, obviously we know he's a millionaire. He's got his own plane, yada yada. So I was worried they would just make him a stereotypical millionaire asshole
Mm-hmm.
and develop him into like, oh yeah, nature make them more based or whatever, you know. But he never really started as like an evil or cold-hearted individual. You see, he loves his wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he seems distracted by a couple things, sure, but that leads into the whole, hey, everyone wants something from him. So I can understand him being paranoid. And he really starts coming to himself. It's a weird way to put it, I know, but he really starts building himself up when they're in that situation in the forest, where we really see him shine and see how he became a millionaire. He had to work for it. See, he's no pushover. He takes charge right away. You know, he messes up with the compass thing at first, sure, but he's like, okay, yeah, I did it. So what? Okay, let's find south. You know, and he's constantly doing that through the whole movie. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We can't stop. The bear's chasing us. We got to kill the bear. And I really like that about his character. Instead of starting off just an asshole and somehow flipping halfway, he starts off with a good base, and it's a natural flow
Mm-hmm.
as he takes charge more, as he becomes a fucking bear killer. Or Hannibal Lecter after, who knows? This could be a weird prequel. But
That's true.
no, I really like that. This movie is my favorite part of the movie. It's the camaraderie between him and Bob is good, and I do like it overall. But it's really Anthony Hopkins' character's Charles' just overall growth that I really like. It stretches this. It not stresses. Exclaimed this in the end where they asked him like, "Hey, how'd your friends die?" And he said, they died helping me live to make sure I lived. And I think there's two meanings to that. It's in the obvious physical sense, like they literally helped him survive, but it's also in the spiritual sense of he is like reignited the spark in his life. He did something he never thought he could do, and I really like that about the film. I thought it was a really cool little angle for it, and it was obviously the best part of the film in my opinion.
I'd have to agree, definitely. And I mean, a lot of that character stuff you were talking about kind of helped out with one of the later scenes where they make it to that cabin where that one guy was supposed to be staying, the guy that they were going out into the wilderness to interview and take photos of. And it's when they get there that both characters pick up on the fact that now that they've gotten somewhere where it's safe and that they can camp out at and wait until they can, plan a way back, or just wait until somebody shows up. With Charles in relation to Bob, Charles isn't needed anymore in terms of Bob relying on him. And when Bob finds a rifle with plenty of rounds, Charles pretty much picks up not too long after that, oh, okay, no, he is going to go through with that now that he doesn't need me anymore. Bob nearly kills him, taking him outside to shoot him in the back. But Bob, I mean, he has to do it kind of tipsy, getting into some whiskey and stuff like that that's at the cabin, because he doesn't really feel like he can go through with it. And I mean, he even says, hey, turn around in order for me to shoot you and stuff like that. But Charles doesn't do that. And Bob could just pull the trigger, but he can't because he just feels that conflict. And kind of talking about Charles as a character, it was just very surprising, but also, given his setup and development, understandable that he was so accepting of Bob basically taking him outside to kill him. And you could read that as two different ways. One, he knew Bob couldn't do it, or he's accepted, all right, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. Because he's just not the kind of person to dwell on the doom and gloom that situations put on him. He's gotten that far, but, he never... Well, no, he did say that we'll eventually get there, but that could just be as more of like a pep talk sort of thing. But, no. Good scene, good sort of progression of both of their characters, really. If I could also highlight one other thing I really liked about the movie, there's a lot of foreshadowing that is not on the nose, and it plays itself up really well when it comes back to bite them in the ass. For one thing, they are constantly mentioning these little pits called deadfalls that have like those spears and like pointy bits at the bottom. And it's at the cabin where Bob is about to shoot Charles that he accidentally falls into one of the deadfalls and gets his leg impaled. Later on in the movie, he does. Sadly, right as the helicopter is showing up to save them, he dies from bleeding out and just, disease from his leg wound getting infected, more likely. Which is very tragic. And again, plays into that whole thing that you were talking about beautifully, Sam, of they died saving my life, both physically and, much like you were saying, spiritually. So, fellas, I think I already know the answer, but recommendations. Would you say yay or nay?
I would say so.
It's not a movie that's trying a whole lot. Like, it is just, it ain't going to be the highest of cinema, but I think as just a little man against nature sort of a thing, especially with Bart constantly chasing them, it's interesting. And it plays up that that sense of danger very well, both in terms of the bear chasing them, which is like a freaking freight train that just never stops chasing them ever, but also just, the environment sort of putting all that pressure and danger on them.
I guess one way you could look at it is, in a way, the bear is kind of unnecessary because the danger that Bob ultimately represents. But I think I guess you could look at it. The bear is more of a metaphor for the hostility between the two main characters, Bob and Charles. This constant looming threat that, in the end, is resolved because they kill that bear, and they bury the hatchet between them as well, and that's why Charles is so confident that Bob would have not pulled that trigger, because that bear of quote unquote bear of hostility between them is just, it's already dead. They overcame it together in a way. But besides my tirade, I would recommend this movie. It's a very solid film, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just solid. It's just good.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you want a good man versus nature movie, go ahead and watch it, because apparently part of the reason why so much of the danger felt so real is because there was a bit of danger when shooting the movie. Dear Lord, I was reading some of the trivia. Anthony Hopkins, in particular, was at the receiving end of nearly dying a couple times, and just overall having a couple outside forces sort of color his performance in a way. Apparently, there was one time where he was taking painkillers for a neck problem he was having, because apparently he had a slipped disc throughout the movie production. He fell into a river and didn't feel how cold it was until he began to suffer from hypothermia and had to be rushed to a hospital, which likely, given this was in the middle of nowhere, was quite a distance in order to be treated.
Yeah. Actually, no. Funny thing I just remembered, too. Anthony Hopkins was in a movie before this with the same bear.
Oh, he was? Oh,
Yeah,
that explains why also he talks so highly of Bart the bear. Let's take our moment to just appreciate Bart. Bart the bear is a professionally trained bear actor.
Yep. He actually passed away in, he got cancer in 1998, but passed away in 2000. And actually was the spokesperson for animal cancer.
Very cool.
Spokesbear. His Wikipedia article quotes him as a spokesbear.
Well, there we go. Yeah, apparently this movie was his final acting role, and Anthony Hopkins, he especially talked very highly of Bart, and would go as far as to talk of him as if, he was an actor just like him and Alec. When are we going to get a bear union for acting roles?
Look, I'm not saying it would be a bad idea, but I'm just saying I can't hide up on a tree because bears can climb.
That's true.
All right, Ian, I have a proposal. I just looked it up. Bart the Bear has his
Uh-huh.
own website, and one of the
Oh.
links says "Hire the Bears."
Oh, they're unionizing.
No,
Oh,
we can get a bear in the podcast studio. I can hire a bear.
Good God.
Might be
Let's
a little
not.
difficult to set up all that audio equipment. He might just eat the microphone.
Or the people inside.
Maybe.
Well, okay, here's the thing. If these are actor bears, I would assume that the only way that these bears are coming within 100 yards of a filming location is if everybody is sure that the bear isn't going to nom nom on some of the cast and crew.
Shit.
You know? You would think so, and I'm going to go with that idea because, oh lord, Bart was really getting into his role in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the idea of actor animals, you have to wonder, oh well, how much of them being the animals that they're trying to portray actually comes across in the movie. Pretty damn well. Bart looks very angry in a lot of this movie, and it is impressive that a animal as big as a Kodiak is able to be tamed and trained in a way where he can just play pretend, essentially.
Yep. I think one of my favorite parts with him, though, is where there is the log that they're trying to cross, and he's just happily like jumping and shaking the end of it to try to knock him down.
It was all fun and games. For the bear, anyway. But, you know what? I think we've all gathered our bearings about the recommendation for this movie. So now I got... Well, too bad. So I wish to know, Harrison, I believe, I think it's time for you to recommend a movie.
All right.
Yes.
To spare Ian from more bears, I will not recommend a Paddington double feature, but instead, I will go with Baby Driver. Love that movie. It's been a while since I've seen it. Fantastic cinematography.
I think that... Oh, wow. This is going to be our first musical. Actually, no, second musical. Interstellar 5555 was a musical. Our first live-action musical. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully we can do this one more time. But till then, this has been our inciting moment.
Indeed. Harrison, glad to have you on, and I look forward to your many escapades on this show. And for the rest of you guys, until then, take care. We'll catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye, everybody.